Welcome to the Wealthy and Healthy podcast, hosted by me, Beck Hibbard. This is the podcast where I share all of the juice around my story and how I went from being a broke and bankrupt single mum who had lost it all to rebuild my life in a few short years, creating a global six-figure business, all while remaining in my feminine flow and living a life of freedom. Now, in these episodes of this podcast, I will be teaching you how to build the life of your dreams whilst becoming the wealthiest and healthiest version of yourself. Now, let's get into today's episode. Hello, what is up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of our podcast. And I'm saying our today because we are doing a collaboration. Me and the incredible Kat, we are literally catching up, and she'll share more about her journey and who she is, that you guys can get to know her. But what we've decided to do, because we're both entrepreneurs within the space, within the coaching industry, we've known each other for quite a few years now. We both started out in the network marketing profession, selling health and wellness products. We both kind of were like in the same sort of leadership roles, building teams. And we would always kind of like share our experiences, right? Because it's really nice knowing when shit hits the fan, you're not alone.
Yeah, so
you're
true.
not alone. So we've kind of continued our relationship on beyond that and really been cheerleading each other on from afar. We're in different countries. But we have joined forces today and we both have podcasts. So we're kind of doing like a joint episode where we're sharing our experiences. Now, I'm a money mindset coach and a business mentor. And like I said, I got into this space after doing some coaching in the network marketing industry, finding my feet in mentoring and really wanting to expand on my skill set and help more people beyond the industry. Do you want to share a little bit about your journey, like what you do with the audience?
Yeah, it's always like such a packed question for me because I have so many different modalities and I still find it hard to put a label on who I am and what I do. But I'm so excited for this podcast episode, and I'm excited that we're kind of co-doing this because we were both talking and we were like, okay, like how do we want to do this? We kind of want to talk about the same things in both our podcasts. Should we just do it once? Because let's work smarter, not harder.
Yes, right? Yes.
So here we are. I'm a mindset coach and an integrative practitioner, and I do lots of work predominantly on the mindset. And what I really want to teach people is to have a strong mindset to endure the roller coaster of life. So that perfectly kind of lines up with what we're going to be talking about today, because it's going to be the roller coaster of running a business. So I really am grateful for all the work I've done on myself to have the strong mindset so that I can ride these waves of volatility and, sales going up and down. And yeah, it's such a beautiful journey. And I help a lot of entrepreneurs and also just people in general. My clientele is predominantly women. I'm also a menstrual cycle coach. I do hypnosis, lots of fun things. And
I love it. So many layers to what you do. And so when did you decide, I should say, that you wanted to kind of move away from the network marketing profession to start building your own business, your own company with the coaching, the mentoring?
it was back in 2022 now that I had hit a really big milestone in that network marketing company. And I know that you had hit it like a little bit before me at the same time. And I remember being like on a high, and it really felt like I had hit that high. I had hit like my first 10K month in that industry. And then it was like, everything kind of came crashing down. Like I quickly started to realize like, wait a minute, this isn't actually fulfilling me. What I personally started to struggle with was putting in so much love and effort into my team and helping people, and then people just disappearing or being nasty. Like I had one team member who was really horrible to me, even though I had like given him all this time and energy. And I just started to question myself, like, why am I doing this? Like I want to help people, and yet I seem to depend on the success of my team. And I know some people are going to say like, oh, but you can always recruit more team. And yeah, I get that. And at the same time, there was only so much that I could handle with the way that I was being kind of treated. So I was like, this doesn't feel right, but I still want to help people. So what shall I do?
Mm.
And it was around that time that I was really getting into human design and menstrual cycle work. So when I first decided that, okay, F it, I'm leaving the industry, I'm going to start doing my own thing. That was the two predominant things I was focusing on, was teaching women about the menstrual cycle, doing human design readings. And I'm also a yoga teacher. So I was doing those free things. And that kind of started to evolve. And I really wanted to find a way to bring it all together. So I did my NLP training, and then I signed up for it thinking like, oh, I'm just going to use it as a way to like tie all my gifts together, and had such a profound experience that I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm going to do. And insert the mindset coaching, which I then started in May 2023. So the month before, in April, I think I made like 5 or 6K between like the things that I was doing. And then in May, I had my first like 13K month from my like independent business. I was like, yes, I'm unstoppable. So then 2023 was just this high, this roller coaster of growing, and then having my first 23K sales month and 17K cash month. And I was like, whoa, this is incredible. And then we were talking about this before we hit record. We both you and me had the goal of like, yeah, we're going to hit $500,000 this year. And then 2024 hit, and suddenly I went through this ego death and rebirth of questioning what I'm doing and who I am. And here we are today.
Yeah, 100%. And I can so resonate with that. And it's funny because our stories are so similar. I was very much the same, but such a very big, successful network marketing team, got to the 1% of the company. And just the same thing, like the return on the investment in pouring into people. And guys, if you're listening to this, I don't want you to think that we are slamming the industry. The industry really gave us so much success, and it prepared us for the next thing. And we accredit where we are today to that industry, because it did
Absolutely
build an incredible foundation for the both of us. It just was something that we poured so much into, and we got to the point of like, you know what, I feel like I could add more value and I could change more lives doing it solo. And you will always, like, some people benefit from teeing up with a company, and it definitely served us in the initial stages of building our business, having a company there to back us. But then we get, you know, our independence, and we're like the little toddlers, and we start running and we're like, okay, I think I want to do this myself now. And so I was very much the same, like poured so much into people, didn't get a great big return on investment, and was like, you know what if I could make this work for me? And also too, you know, my target audience is I help women become financially independent through money mindset coaching, teaching them how to manifest money. So my, you know, audience and what I wanted to teach was a little bit different to health and wellness. So that's where I made that transition out. But you're right, like 2023, you know, I started my own sort of coaching back in 2022, September. And then 2023 was just the most insane, monumentous year. Like the cash months, you know, we were doing 33K months. It was just insane. And the growth that we were having, and I say we, like, because of my company, I have a company now, so there's a few people behind the scenes helping me. So we just had this like huge amount of momentum, and then 2024 hit. And I thought the momentum would continue. And so for me personally, I packed up my life into boxes and I decided to travel the world for the first few months. I retired my partner, and the momentum did not keep building. It kind of, you know, backed off and backed off and backed off. And I think this is the most integral part when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to being a successful business owner, is actually also holding, you know, yourself through the highs and the lows. That's what really builds long-term success in your career. And it's so easy for us to just be like, oh, fuck it, I'm not good enough. Like, who am I? You know, for me personally, I had those moments of doubts when I was having really low cash months. I was like, but I teach on money.
right.
I teach on money, but I'm having low cash months, or the bank account is getting really, really low. And like, I don't know how I'm going to pay expenses. And so that all plays a part. And I truly believe it doesn't matter what industry you're in. We both teach separate things, but we're in the same industry. And it's like it plays a part. It can chip away at your self-confidence if you have lost momentum, if you feel like you're up against glass ceilings, if you feel like you're becoming stagnant. And so we wanted to bring just awareness to that and a bit of a comfortable blanket to you and be like, it's okay, you're going to make it through this season, as will we. And we're talking from this at the time of recording, we're still in this season. So it's not like, oh, we got it, we're on the other side. We want to give you our perspective as going through it, how you can still remain the course, how you can still believe in yourself, and how you can still have confidence regardless of the results. Because the more that you hold the identity of confidence, of self-belief, of worthiness, the results will come. But if you falter on that, the results won't come.
Exactly. And I think it's so important that you mentioned, it's really not against network marketing. Like, I actually believe that for the average person, it's one of the best ways to create entrepreneurship. It really is. And you can learn so much. And it's actually one of my pet peeves these days, where people who've been in the network marketing industry and then they start their own business and they become successful, and then they're like, oh, I just started my business and now I'm here making all this money, yet they were in network marketing for like 10 years. I'm like, excuse me.
Yes.
Like, what about all those years that you were like working hard, learning about marketing and putting yourself on social media, selling, all those things? Like, that's transferable. You're not brand new. So yeah,
100%.
it's all part of the journey. But tell us a little bit about your journey, because you're going to be on my podcast as well. And I do find it very fascinating to hear about, the bankruptcy and how literally you've gone from bankruptcy to a money mindset coach to retiring your partner. Tell me about this.
I know. It's like, and the bankruptcy, honestly, for so long, it really felt like it was the shadow and why I couldn't teach on money. That's what it felt like. Because it was, when you go bankrupt, society deems you as the most financially destitute person in society. And I'm not bankrupt anymore, but still to this day, like, I can't get a loan. I can't get a credit card. Like, there's a big fat cross on my credit score and, on the history. And it's like, I've had 33K months and I've applied for an MX and gotten declined. I've been able to prove that I've made 90K over, 3-month period. And it's like, my own bank was like, nope, sorry, can't help you. So, I really thought that going bankrupt would be a hindrance, but sometimes, our pains are our greatest powers, and they become our superpowers that we get to teach and help people on. And so for me, my story, I started out in the network marketing profession back in 2018. So about 6 years ago. And I was married at the time. I was working part-time. So I was a new mum to a 1-year-old. I was married. I was working part-time in building construction. And so I was, wanting to find something that could bring in more money for our family, so that either I could cut back my hours and be a full-time stay-at-home mom, or I could, cut back my partner's hours because he was working 6 days a week just to kind of keep us afloat. And a few months into this, a few months into starting my business, my marriage completely imploded. Like, it crumbled. And, I was with my husband. We were together for 9 years and we'd been married for 11 months. And, we didn't even make it to the 1-year mark and we were heading for divorce, essentially. And so I had, all that I thought I desired, like the white picket fence lifestyle and the side hustle. And then suddenly, he was done. He was out. I was a single mom, working part-time, trying to build a business and trying to pay for all the debts, the house, the cars, and everything just to keep us afloat. And when I say us at that point, it was my daughter and I. And I just couldn't. The debt completely swallowed me. And through the divorce process here in Australia, you have to kind of get all your finances sorted before you can file for divorce in a court. You have to delegate everything and figure out who's taking what, who's paying for what. And so through that process, it became very apparent that I was going to be left with all of the debt, and then I was going to be the only one yeah, accountable to pay for it, which was just devastating because I couldn't get any more assistance from the banks. I tried to see if I could get more loans in my name, and being a single mom at that time, only working part-time, no one would kind of look at me and help me. So I remember vividly, I was walking around the grocery store with my daughter, and she was sitting in the front of the cart, and she was eating a little banana. And I got a call from my lawyer, and my lawyer said, "Hey, you have two options. Like, we need to get this divorce finalized, and your option is you either sue the other party for not paying their share of the debt. However, that comes with a very long legal battle. You still will have to pay for the debt now, because we need to get that finalized. Also with that, that's more money, that's barrister fees, lawyer fees, that's mental health too, because they knew that I was really struggling a lot with anxiety and depression. And they said, like, we just don't know if you will be able to go through with that, and it is a long battle just to get 50% of the debt paid. Or the other option is you file for bankruptcy, and everything gets repossessed, everything gets taken, but it gives you a clean slate." And so, I literally just started bawling my eyes out, and they said, "Just think about it, like, just, think about it and come back to us." And I sat with it for so many months, and my lawyers would call me and be like, "Okay, you need to make a decision. You need to make a decision. Like, we're not moving forward with this divorce." And, I said, "Okay, like, that's it. I'll file for bankruptcy." And so I did. And within the space of a week, I had to pretty much move, because when you go bankrupt, here where I am, the bank takes everything. So I had to pack all of my belongings into boxes, and I had to move before going bankrupt. And then my house got repossessed and sold by the bank. And then my car got repossessed. My car got taken away on a tow truck. And so here I am, like, this, this mom, this new single mom. I was age 25 when I was divorced, a single mom, broken, bankrupt. And so for a long time, there was so much shame around that. I was just so broke, and I had barely any money. I was on government support, trying to build this business and doing what I can, working long hours. And, the new home that I moved into, it was a very small 2-bedroom apartment, and I had a kitchen. And the only extra space I had in this apartment for my desk was literally in the kitchen. And so I built my business, my online business in the profession. Like, I built it to 6 figures, and from the desk in my kitchen. And then I realized after doing that, that I had a story to tell, and I had, value to add into people's lives that had nothing, had lost it all. And if I could go from literally being bankrupt, completely broke on government support, to making multi 6 figures within the period of like 3 years, I can teach that to other people, because there's nothing special about me. Let me tell you, I'm not some freaking unicorn. Like, I dropped out of school at 15. I don't have a degree. Like, I was a divorced single mom by 25. Like, there's nothing special about me. I just learned a lot about money, and I took it upon myself to study money, to study the energetics of it, to study manifestation, to understand the universal laws, how they work, and then how to apply it so that I could live this incredibly abundant and beautiful life. And once I studied that, by looking into like quantum physics and stuff, sometimes it can get very overwhelming and confusing. Like, there's a lot of big words, there's so many universal laws, there's so many different things when it comes to manifestations, and people teach money in so many different ways. And I was able to find a really simplistic way that worked for me, that got me this, level of wealth and money and success. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to create that. And so I did. I launched my very first program, which is my money magnetism program. It's my signature program. And then from there, that's when I decided to exit the industry of network marketing and really focus on teaching women about money. And also, I also help women build businesses, because that's another area of expertise that I can really speak well into. So that's kind of like my journey and how I've arrived at this point.
Yeah, it's so inspiring. I had no idea that you were going through bankruptcy when it all happened. So it's
Mhm.
pretty like, wow. And it again goes to show, right, that so often we don't see when
Mm.
we go through the darkness and when we go through the challenging times. And I believe there's
Mhm.
such a time and a place to share these stories, and not in a like, poor me, watch
Mm.
me, feel pity for me, but more like, if I can get through this and if I can continue showing up in the midst of it all, so can you.
Mm-hmm.
Like
100%.
that's ultimately what this podcast episode is about, right? It's like sharing the taboos and then being like, well, you can get through this.
Definitely. And there's so much power in sharing your story after the fact. I think for me, when I heard like in order to create trust, so let's like business in general, in order to be able to create authority online where you are able to sell to your audience and have engaged buyers, you need to create trust. And trust is created through vulnerability. And I think sometimes, for me personally, I took vulnerability out of context a lot of times. I was, going through things and I was very emotional. And when emotions are high, intelligence is low.
Yeah.
And so there's moments where I was very emotional and I was jumping on social media and I was, blasting my ex, or I was talking about this and blasting this person, thinking that that was going to make me more relatable. But instead, it just made that victim mentality, like you said, that poor pity me. And it, misery loves company. And so I wasn't attracting hot and engaged buyers that wanted to grow. I was just attracting people that were like, oh, yeah, I'm going to watch you stumble and fall because I'm stumbling and falling and we can stumble and fall together. And so I think for me, it was really about, navigating the parts of me. Yes, I'm going through things and getting through them. And then from there, teaching from that place of like,
Yes.
oh, this is what I've navigated. This is my solution. And now I can teach that rather than this is what I'm going through. I'm trying to figure it out. So has there ever been, do you think, a moment for you where you've navigated something really big that now you help people with because you've found the solution?
I believe it's the whole journey of losing yourself and all of the darkness and the shame. I'm interested. Like it's interesting you mentioned shame because shame was also one of the emotions that I carried a lot. And just really the biggest thing for me was, I was like doing all the work, and I don't know if you can relate to this, but like signing up to all the courses, reading all the books, doing all the personal development, and yet I was still in this pattern of repeating the same results. And I was getting so frustrated. And this was when I was still doing network marketing, kind of before I became successful with that. It's just like, what is going on? Like I have all this intellectual knowledge and yet I'm not moving through this. So then I had this realization through actually starting to work with a coach myself that I had not embodied the intellectual knowledge. And I see this so much now. We gobble up all the personal development books, we sign up for all the courses, we watch it, we do it, la, la, la. And yet we don't actually take the time to embody the knowledge and really move through it. Once I started to do that, that's when everything changed. And when I started to work with my unconscious mind and really going back to childhood memories and feeling unworthy, feeling lonely, the rejection, and dealing with the emotions there and reprogramming my mind to then being like, oh, okay, I've actually got this because my past doesn't mean that it's going to be the same for me in the future. Like I can move through this and I can have a different result. And that's really what I love to teach people now. It's like creating that strong mindset. Like, yes, you can take the lessons from the past. It doesn't mean that you have to recreate the same things in the future. So that's been my biggest journey. And especially now, this ego death has been very interesting for me because 2023 was extremely successful for me. I started slow and then boom, it went crazy. And basically within 9 months, I did 6 figures and I was like, whoa, this is really cool. And I remember this is really going into like the shadow. I remember sharing about it, and I'm sure you've probably experienced this being a money mindset coach. Is I was sharing about the success, and I had a lot of people who I once considered friends drag me down and say all the things like, oh, all you care about is money and you're just conning people. You're not actually helping them. You have no idea. You have no credentials. You have no certifications. And I thought that it was water down a duck's back, but it was actually building up. And it was pushing me back into like one of my biggest shadows is rejection and not belonging. And I was unconsciously starting to self-sabotage to bring myself to belong again so that I could fit back in. And at the same time, like that self-sabotage actually showed up in a way of doing things not in alignment with me because I felt like I had to. And it was, and I'm not saying this to again shame anyone or any of my mentors or anything, because it's my personal choices and me choosing to do things that didn't actually align with me because I thought I had to. And it was just things around marketing or like how I showed up and the things I was kind of thinking I had to sell, etc. And then really getting to this beginning of this year and asking myself, who am I actually? What brings me joy? And I had like stepped into business coaching and I was teaching like, oh, I can tell you all the systems and stuff, but that actually doesn't light me up. So that was kind of like what I thought I had to teach people about business. And then I had a failed launch in February where I made $0. When I read your post and when I reached out to you, but I was like,
Feels. Yeah,
what?
can relate. Can relate.
I was literally like, oh my God. But then it was starting to come back to myself and being like, okay, well, what is this teaching me? What is the purpose of this happening? And then I started to realize, well, I don't actually want to teach people about systems and structure. Like, I know people who are really great at that, and I'd much rather refer people to them. What I want to teach about is looking after you, the woman behind the business, the one that is doing the work, that is needing to have a strong mindset so that you can pick yourself up when you fall down. Like, that's what lights me up. It's the woo-woo, it's the spiritual, it's the rituals, it's learning on to be in the feminine. It's like all that. And it's interesting now that I've started to shift into that more, I'm starting to experience some slow momentum again. It's slow, but it is coming again. So that's great.
We'll take it. We will take slow momentum, right?
Absolutely. But it's been such a wild ride. The whole like ego death and realizing the self-sabotage pattern. And yeah, I actually recently found out that apparently it's in my astrology chart, like my biggest wounding is around money and belonging.
Wow.
I was like,
Wow.
yeah, can relate.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And can you explain for our listeners, maybe some of our listeners haven't heard about an ego death before. Can you explain like what that means or kind of like what that looks like?
So I'm sure everyone has
Yeah.
different versions of it. For me, is really like it was feeling like I was on top and I knew it all and I was successful and things were going well. And then kind of having to face the truth of, but who am I? Is this
Mm.
truly me? Do I actually know what I'm doing? Where am I out of alignment? Because things are starting to fall apart around me. And it was literally having to sit and face the fact that I had allowed myself to be taken off my path and doing things that weren't in alignment with me. And through that, experiencing then the winter. It was really interesting. Something that I learned during that time, and it was literally like, oh my God, this is it. And I was on the plane. I was actually like literally in February, I had this moment. And it all kind of made sense. I was watching this masterclass by this beautiful woman who was very much teaching about alchemy and like priestess energy. And she was talking about the seasons using kind of the Egyptian knowledge and relating that to business. And she was talking about, the summer of the business and when things are going really well. And it seems like everything's golden and you're like having all this success. And sometimes we can mistake that for gold. So for
Mm.
actual, like, this is it. And then whether it's consciously or unconsciously, become obsessed about the financial gains. And then if we allow ourselves to get off the path there, we get forced, instead of going into autumn where we reap the true benefits of our business and our fruitful labor, we actually go into a winter where we are forced to look at where we have been in out of alignment. And I was watching this training, and it was after I had gone all of this, and I was like, oh my God, this is it. Unconsciously, I had let the success, the like all the money become the thing. And I was doing things I thought I had to do to continue to be successful. and actually they weren't in alignment with me. And this was all unconscious things. Like it wasn't until I heard this and I was like, this is it. So it was really facing how you created the mess you're in without even realizing it, and then having to face that and like really looking yourself in the mirror and be like, yeah, this is me. And this is what I teach my clients. I'm like, everything you have in your life is a result of your conscious and unconscious choices. So how have you manifested that? So then to take that moment myself, and we're talking about this before we hit record, we coach people through this all day long. It's great. And then having to face this yourself and be like, whoa, this is my role in all of this. Okay.
Isn't it? It's like literally we were saying that it's like we're humans. We have human experience where we doubt, we freak out, but then the coach in us is like, but wait, this is how we navigate through. We use this tool, we use this resource, but then the human in us is like, I want to wave the white flag and get someone to help me. I'm unqualified to deal with this.
Absolutely. And I actually, funnily enough, rehired my first coach when I went through all of this, because I know that when I first had worked with her, when I was still in network marketing, she was one of the only people who really taught me that I could do things my way. And she had, which I found out like around that time, had gone through something similar in 2023. So hearing her story, I was like, oh my God, you've gone through this. I've trusted you before. You can help me navigate through this. So I've been working with her again, and it's been beautiful. It's this coming together, and she's just recently gone through what I'm going through. So it's very relatable and just really facing the shadows. So I think it's so important, even as a coach, to still be coached, because we have those human moments.
100%, because there's that level of support, there's that level of accountability, and when you're in it, and it's so hard to see above it. When you see above the situation or above the lack or above the momentum, you can see that broader view and be like, okay, that's okay, we're here, but we can move this and we can pivot this and we can relax into this and look at alignment, look at embodiment. Whereas if you're in it, you're just like, fuck, there's no sales, there's no money, I'm not good enough. What am I doing? Should I go back to a 9 to 5? Whereas you've got that accountability, that support to go, calm down, get off the ledge. It's okay. You're not going to die and we will make it through.
Exactly. Oh my God. So relatable. The whole, like, should I go back to a 9 to 5? The amount of times I've asked myself that in the last couple of months is wild. But I don't know about you. I'm not employable.
No.
After all this, like, I am not employable.
It's like, what would I even write on a resume at this point? Like, honestly, like, that's the thing. It's like the brain's like, that's it. We're getting a 9 to 5. And it's like, but hang on, what the fuck would I even say? I haven't worked for someone for 6 years, nor do I honestly want to. I will be the worst employee you'd ever hire at this point. I'm a great boss. I'm a great mentor. I'm a great coach, but employee, like, you give me a clock in, clock out time. Tell me when my lunch break is. I'm going to rebel.
Exactly. Oh my God. So relatable. But now that I've shared my story, I want to hear about yours, because that's kind of how we're here. Because your post, I was like, oh my God, we're going.
100%. And I can really relate to the piece of doing things that you think you have to do based on the people around you, right? Like for me, I was modeled a version of success, and I really thought for such a long time that I wanted to retire my partner. Like, I honestly thought that was success. If I could be a successful, financially independent woman, and then I could have a man who I retired. And I did that, but I did it out of ego. So I've had a very similar ego death, which I've had to confront within the last few weeks. This is very, very fresh, but I'm on the other side, so I'll speak to it from the other side. But I retired my partner out of selfishness, out of ego. Look at me. This is what I can do. I have this financial bandwidth. I'm this, successful. And because of the industry that, I was in for so long, that was kind of like a milestone thing. The female making so much money, that they can retire their man. So that was the goal for me. And then I fell in love with this incredible man, the most amazing relationship I've ever been in. And he come to the relationship very masculine, very driven in his own career, was doing incredible things. And I had this like goal to retire him. And eventually, like, I wore him down. Like, I was like, let me retire you. And it kind of went against everything that he believed in himself and everything that, you know, he wanted to do. He really found worth in providing financially for his family. Whereas I'm little Miss Independent over here, I wants to do it all. And so, you know, I retired him. But what happened was the subconscious, which you've spoken about, the subconscious didn't want to be the sole income earner. My subconscious didn't want that financial responsibility. My subconscious very much does want to be financially independent. That's what I teach, and that's very much who I am, based on my experiences. But at the same time, I want to feel financially supported from a man. I want to get that princess treatment. I want my man to come home with flowers that he's worked for, he's brought. I want him to organize the date night and the things like that. And it probably sounds very surface level, but my relationship has so much depth to it. There's emotional support. There is so many other areas of support. He supports me with our daughter and everything like that. But it was more so like, I actually didn't want that. And not only am I very financially independent, I'm very independent in the way that I love to do things by myself. And so I love to go to a restaurant. I will sit in the most crowded restaurant by myself, not even on my phone. I will have a journal or a book and I will enjoy the most amazing meal. I will go to the movies by myself. I will go shopping by myself. Like, I love alone time. And so we were spending every second of every day, literally him being here, and he's very proactive. So he took a role in my company because he felt like he had to do something. Just him sitting around being, you know, quote unquote retired wasn't the thing that he really wanted. And so it played out this really icky dynamic in our relationship where I stepped more into my masculine, he stepped more into his feminine because I was the boss. You know, I'm saying, okay, I need this task done by this time. Can you send me this? Can you reply to this email? Can you vet this? Can you do this? But there wasn't like a switch off, you know, where when he was working, there was a switch off. Like, he would come home from his job, he was a leader in his field, he felt very powerful, influential. He'd come home, and then I would relax into my girlfriend mode because my business was switched off at that point. We didn't have that boundary. And especially we were traveling too over the last few months, so it was really playing a part in our travels. There was no switching off, there was none of that. So I really had to come to the terms of like, first of all, why is the business going down? You know, I don't understand that. I hit this huge milestone of retiring my man. I thought it would catapult. I thought it would be the greatest thing. It would get, you know, it would create so much more success, and women would see that they could do it if I could do it. But at the same time, deep down, I didn't want that. And I was following other people's version of success out of ego because I thought that made me be more successful, look more successful. You know, I would get more clients and everything like that. And so it wasn't until it was like, actually, I don't want this. You know, and I had the conversation with him and I was like, I really don't think that I want you home. Like, and it was a really hard conversation to have. I had to work through a lot of shame and a lot of guilt because I did wear him down to say yes. You know, us women, we get what we want. And so I like, you know, there was a lot of guilt. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, you've been retired for 6 months, but now I really want you to kind of find your own thing. And I want to separate that. And I want you to look after me financially. And when I approached him with it, he was like, yes, I actually have been thinking the exact same thing. And I agree. And I want to, you know, even the small thing he said to me the other day, he's like, I want to propose to you, but I never wanted to propose to you and buy a ring based on the money that you brought into the home. And like, I was like, wow. And he's like, now he's doing his own thing. He's got his own role. He's a leader in the industry that he was in previously. So he's like back into his gear, and our dynamic is amazing. But now he's like, now I can actually make a means to buy the ring with my money. And, you know, we share joint accounts. But he literally said to me the other day, he's like, I'm going to get a card in my name and I'm going to like transfer money onto it and give it to you so you can get your nails done. Because I really want to like pay for your nails and I want to like pay for flowers. And he's like, yeah, now the money is joint technically. So it's his income, my income together. But he's like, I want you to feel like I'm financially taking care of you because you haven't had that in the longest time, if not ever. Like, I've honestly never had that. And he's like, I want to give you that. And so having that was such a huge realization, but having hard conversations, doing that internal ego work, like that was
Yeah.
really hard for a few weeks there. But now we're on the other side, and it's like it's just become that we've become so much stronger. And again, we're back into momentum as a couple. And again, the momentum for me is slowly starting to build because I'm no longer fighting against my subconscious. And
Yeah.
instead, this is my reality that I want to live. And now, it's removing that blockage. That the
Yeah.
subconscious creates the blockages. And so I've removed that. And now things are starting to build again.
It's so fascinating. Oh my God. I actually love that that was part of your journey.
Mm.
And it's so true. Like in the industry we were in, this was such a milestone. But I actually remember, and I can't remember where, but I was one of the trainers, and it was a male, said, "Stop saying this
Mm.
because it's actually so demasculating for men." And I remember hearing that. And then over these last few years, I've really been diving into menstrual cycle work, so learning about the feminine and masculine. Most men don't want to be retired.
Mm-hmm.
They actually want to provide for their family. And yet here we are, Mrs. Strong in the bed. And I can relate because I have been the same.
Yeah.
I can do it all. I can be the one.
Mm-hmm.
And do you actually want to? And there was a short period of time last year where I had to be the sole income earner as well because my husband lost his job and he'd been wanting to start his own business, but it was kind of a little bit of a lag effect. So
Mm-hmm.
I was the sole income earner for a while and I hated it.
Mm.
I hated it. It first of all, that pressure, and it
Yeah.
was luckily during the time when I was at the height, so it was easy for me to do, but I hated it
Yeah.
because also probably all the work I had done about the feminine, I want to be provided for.
Mm.
So it's
Yeah.
exactly that same energetic of like, and then being able to have your separate things. I'm just like you, where I want to be doing things alone. Like if my husband was like at home the whole day, I'd probably go crazy. So I'm glad that he's got his own business and he's busy with and he's very successful with it now. But
Mhm.
yeah, I need that space and I want to do things on my own. Same like you. And it's so beautiful if we can then really sync because if we're business owners, we are in the masculine a lot. Running
Mhm.
a business, we have to be in the masculine. Like, yeah, we can tap into our feminine, etc. It's all there. And yet it is masculine in energy. So then to be able to set that aside and be like, okay, I'm done for the day. Now it's time to be in my relationship and to soften into that feminine. Like that's the beauty. If you're really able to learn those roles, and I
Mm.
see this so much in relationships, women just being in their masculine, because unfortunately I believe that this is the kind of the downside of the women's empowerment movement,
Yeah.
forcing us thinking we have to do it all alone, and then we forget about how to be in the feminine, and that makes our relationships suffer and forces men into the feminine.
Mhm.
Whole different subject. It's
It's
like
funny that you
so
said that because I literally said that to a girlfriend this morning on my beach walk. I was like, I fully played a role in that whole feminine empowerment movement where it's like, I want to be, independent and, screw men. We don't need them. But then I'm like, but there's days where I literally just want to freaking cook my man dinner in my lingerie and that's it. Like there's days when I
yes.
don't want to do anything other than like make him a meal and become that
Yeah,
little housewife for a day.
exactly. And how beautiful is it that we get to be all of this?
Yes,
Like you get to be this super successful business owner and then you get to be the housewife.
exactly. Exactly. 100%. I love that we've really come to the realization that it's really about finding your own blueprint and stop following people's version of success. Have you ever had like how do you manage comparing where you are to other people? Because I know that this is something that I've struggled with, hence why I've made a lot of moves out of ego. And in hindsight, now I
Yeah.
know that. But how do you like navigate that?
Oh, this is actually very dominant. And this is something I was talking to my coach about is the comparisonitis. And as soon as I drop into it and I start
Mhm.
comparing myself to other people, I feel so crappy and that I'm not enough and that maybe I don't have qualifications and I should go and get a job.
Mhm.
So this definitely is a bit of a shadow I like to play into. And the way that I've really navigated this recently is I have unfollowed and cut out a lot of the people who, when I was looking at them, I was starting to feel those negative emotions, because I believe that those people are not actually in alignment with who I want to become.
Mhm.
And then there's the ones who are doing amazing things. And yet when I look at them, I don't compare myself, but instead I look at them as inspiration.
Mm.
And that's, I think, the difference. And even if it's just for a short period of time, to really realize, well, who am I comparing myself to? Because is their lifestyle a lifestyle that I want? If it's a no, why am I comparing myself to them? Like,
Mm.
there's some coaches in the industry that are very successful, making seven figures, etc., and yet they're like working just 12 hours a day
Mhm.
nonstop. That's not success to me. I want to have time freedom. I only want to work a few hours a day. I want to be able to like drop it if I want to and just do something else. So why am I comparing myself to someone like that if I'm not actually willing to build a business the way that they are? And instead, there is so many coaches who have built successful seven-figure business in a way that I want. And it's interesting, when I actually consume their content, it inspires me rather than
Mm.
puts me into that comparison trap. But I think it's also important to like then kind of look at the whole like mirror thing of being like,
Yeah.
well, are they actually triggering me because there's something in me to heal here? Because that happens a lot as well. So I think
Yeah.
it's really learning to navigate. Is it a trigger? Is there something to heal?
Mm.
Or is it that this person is actually not necessarily in alignment with how I want to build my business? So why am I comparing? That's how I navigate it, but I'd love to know how you do that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, for me, there's the duality of anything. Like we could find 10 people making seven figures and we could compare their strategies, who they are, why they do what they do, and how they do what they do. And we would find 10 different strategies. Like everyone kind of preaches a different thing. So, very much for me, when it comes to comparing, 100%, the trigger is so important. Why am I triggered? But then also beyond that, I'm like, do I really want to take on their belief that this is what I need to do in order to be successful? Because you can find so much different proof of different beliefs of success. You know, for me, there was a season in my life where I really believed that in order to be successful, I had to work 12 hours a day, like 6 days a week. And I did that for a season. And I, was so absorbed with the people that were doing that. And I thought that was success. And then I switched gears and found other people that were working like 2 hours a day, making the same money, if not more. And I was like, holy shit. So it's really just about, for me personally, is first of all, am I comparing with the people that I don't want to be? Like the whole retiring
Mm-hmm.
my man, I did that because I thought that's what successful people do. But then when I did it, I was like, but I actually don't want this. Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
not
Yeah.
success to me. So it was like, okay, now I need to find women that are successful, that don't feel the need to, retire their partner, and they can actually have a partner who is just as successful. For me, that is like success. And that's what, I need to get myself more around. So it's really about, yeah, we can compare, but you could compare yourself with anyone. And comparing yourself is always going to put you beneath that person. It's going to put
Mm-hmm.
that person on a pedestal and you below them. And when you put things on a pedestal, they become instantly unachievable. So you might think that you're just comparing, but what you're doing is you're making that version of success and their lifestyle that you eventually want to live unachievable. And it's like, do you really want that? So sometimes, even if you are comparing and the person has the lifestyle and they have the success and they're everything that you want, if you're pedestaling them, well, it's time that you either take them off the pedestal or you remove them from your life. And I know
Mm-hmm.
that sounds harsh, but you have to get behind the belief that if they can do it, you can do it. And it shouldn't be like, oh, if they can do it, fuck, I'm never going to be able to do it. Instead, it's like, no, oh my God, they did it. How could I do it? I can do it. Let's figure out the way and let's go for it. So that's very much like, yeah, for me and where I'm at. I suppose we should slowly wrap things up. Do you have any like final thoughts or anything you want to share?
Um, Maybe just the whole thing, and I know we spoke about this, like feeling like we want to go back to a 9 to 5. I think
Mm,
that's one of the reasons why so many people don't stick with business, is the volatility of learning to ride the roller
yes.
coaster.
Yeah.
So just remembering that everything in life is cyclical. Like we go through all seasons, and there is going to be those times of consolidation, and that those are the moments where the sales might go down, and where you might question yourself, and you may feel like, oh my God, should I get a job? And then instead of freaking out, can you take those consolidation months, those winter months, and be like, what am I learning here? What is it that I can learn into? And like, this is exactly what we spoke about. Both of us realized, like, oh, where we were out of alignment, where we were chasing someone else's version of success, and how we had to come back to our truth, and how that then started to build the momentum. So anyone in business who's going through hardship, don't let it define you, because what goes down must come back up. And just learn to lean on people, get yourself a coach, get someone who's been through it and who's willing to guide you, because I believe that that is probably the biggest secret to success. What about
Yes.
you?
Oh,
Any final thoughts?
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. The more that you can expand, the more that you can hold. And in these moments where, you know, you're not in momentum, or you feel like your business is, you're getting sales and drips and drabs and it's just very slow, you're expanding, you know, therefore there is going to come a moment where you're going to be able to hold more. But also now is the time to really look at yourself and be like, okay, more is coming. What do I need to clean up? Who do I need to become in order to hold the more that is coming? And in these quiet moments, that's where you can do that. And so I think that's really important, just to know that this is going to pass. Like you said, like it's seasons, and this is where we get to slow down. And, you know, you can use this time of quietness and slowness to really look at your business from the lens of the CEO. And then you can also do that introspective work where you get to look at, okay, am I out of alignment? And this is why I'm not getting what I want, because I'm not following my own path. Instead, I'm trying to, you know, chase behind someone else's, thinking that's what I want. And so there is some great moments of time that we've got here that we can lean into and utilize to propel us back into momentum, but knowing that it's not going to, you know, last forever. And also knowing that you're not alone. Like this is just part and parcel of it. And if you get inside your head too much, you will 100% give up, and you will go back to, you know, your 9 to 5. But at the end of the day, like Thomas Edison, it was 3,000 light bulb attempts before he got the light bulb to work. So it's like, imagine if he quit on the 2000 attempt. And it's the same with Walt Disney. Like he got knocked back by the bank for a loan 30 times, like 30 times. And that's just like the start of, you know, Walt Disney. That's not even him building Disneyland. That's not even him building the cinematic experience. Like that's just him asking for the funds and him trying to find someone who believed in his vision. So it's like, imagine the setbacks he would have had on his journey of creating the cinematic experience, of creating Disneyland and Disney World. Like imagine all of that. That was just the beginning. So, you know, sometimes this is the price that we have to pay. If you want more, well, you have to become more. And these are the moments that really teach you how to become more.
Absolutely. It's so, and the vision piece comes back. So I'm glad you kind of brought that in. It's make your vision big enough. Make your vision and your mission big enough. It's bigger than you. It's the legacy you leave. And that's what matters. That's what's gonna get you through the dark days.
Definitely. All right, you guys, we will put both of well, obviously we're going to be sharing this on each of our platforms. So I know that I'll put Kat's information on the episode show notes. She'll do the same on mine, in case you guys want to follow us both if we're in alignment with you, and if you vibe with us. If we trigger you, you can ask yourself inner questions, or just not follow us. We don't mind.
Whatever you choose, it's perfect with us.
All right, you guys, we love you and we appreciate you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode.
If you feel called and if you feel aligned, please share this on your social media and tag me at Beck Hibbard, because I love to reshare all of the tags. And if you really feel called to it, and I would honestly really appreciate this if you can leave a 5-star review on whatever platform that you're listening to this episode on.